Good morning. I'm Scott Spector. I'm the global leader for media entertainment for AWS Professional Services. And this morning I want to talk to you a little bit about some things going on with machine learning and how they're affecting media entertainment ecosystems, and some of the things that we're seeing as a company, some of the services and platforms we've launched, how machine learning relates to artificial intelligence and deep learning. We'll also share some use cases with you here this morning, and also actually show you some real demos, real-time demos. So we get asked this a lot. What is machine learning? You know, we know that for many decades, artificial intelligence has been part of the popular scientific culture, been a way to integrate intelligent machines and programs and bring them together, and it's been long in play. Right about the 1980s, we saw machine learning, which is kind of a subset of artificial intelligence, come into play, and that has to do with the ability to be able to operate these intelligent systems without explicitly programming them. And then we saw around the early 2000s deep learning become very significant as we had the access to very large neural networks, very large compute power. So the cloud and all the things coming on board, this becoming much easier to do. So if we look at the advent of deep learning overall, it's the combination of programming, algorithms, data, very large compute power, and all these things are now creating collectively new ways to interact with media entertainment information. So whether it's image understanding, you'll see some demos here in a second, it's speech recognition, natural language processing, it's even autonomous vehicles. All these things are taking advantage of these deep machine learning algorithms that are available. Some of you may, with Amazon. Amazon's been involved in machine learning and deep learning for a long time. If you've ever ordered anything from Amazon.com, you've experienced search and discovery. All the warehouses are actually complemented and augmented by machine learning. If you ever used Amazon Alexa, a vehicle or in a home, you've experienced some of the benefits and the things that are being deployed on Amazon today. And right up into the future, Prime Air, which is the delivery service, will actually be utilizing machine learning in the background. So machine learning today is already going across many different verticals. We're here to talk about media entertainment, but we're seeing applications in NASA and real estate, all sorts of consumer endeavors, but it's really creeping into the ecosystem of our lives. So if I look at what's going to unlock the machine learning journey for us, kind of breaks into three major areas. It's automation, it's enrichment, and it's innovation. So on the automation side, it's really, if you look at the media entertainment ecosystem, it's the ability to be able to optimize and maintain or reduce cost, improve quality. If you look at the enrichment side, it's adding additional features to content, different ways for people to engage with content. And if you look at innovation, it's actually ways of taking that content and providing entirely new ways to interact with it or monetize that content. And we're seeing that, for example, if you've got studios with thousands of hours of B-roll for major motion pictures, to be able to cultivate that content, mill through it, do metadata enrichment, figure out what's there, then create new stories is becoming very valuable, then monetize that content. So, it does get down. This whole discussion we'll talk about here this morning, none of this makes any sense for a business or a studio or a music label unless you can create real value, you can execute with the machine learning tools, and you have access to very large amounts of data. So our vision as a company is to simplify a lot of these tools and put them in the hands of just about everybody that wants to use them. So whether it's, not every company has thousands of data scientists ready to deploy, but certainly any developer, any company that wants to deploy machine learning can do so with some of the tools we're going to show you here this morning. If I look at the ways that machine learning is helping the whole experience at scale, we break it down to the content experience, the the delivery side of it, anywhere, anytime, any platform, and then the personalization. So the content side, machine learning is actually helping with the development of content, the curation or recommendation engine. We see that now if you can scale the supply chain, the whole digital supply chain very easily and manage it, that allows you to deliver any type of content anywhere on any platform. And then personalization, really requires you to make sense of very large amounts of data. So these things are becoming drivers for the industry. Another way of looking at it, on the left-hand side there, you'll see that, we're all familiar with social media, and consumers have had the ability to interact with content very easily across a lot of social platforms. But now we're actually delivering new kinds of technology enhancements. Those are machine learning, elastic compute power, storage, over-the-top delivery. And then you combine that with the personalization of ads, short-form content with complete story arcs. All these things are kind of coming together in a way enhanced by technology that now is making what we'll call the new personalization paradigm. And that's allowing content creators to be very, very close now with viewers. And what happens when you have that happen, you can actually now reach very far out into the supply chain, whether it's video game development or story development or books. And now you can interact, gather social sentiment, bring it all back, and even modify story and character development of a feature film or a movie. So here's what that model might look like. On the left-hand side, you have kind of what I'll call more the conventional delivery elements. So you want to certainly personalize content. You want to make the right investment decisions as you're creating content. You want to do efficient production. Machine learning helps with that. You want to deliver that file content, and then you want to hopefully have an enhanced viewer experience. But if you've done all that correctly, you really get better content monetization overall, and actually able to capture sentiment and viewing patterns, run that back through kind of machine learning analysis, and then drive it right back to the beginning of the cycle, if you will, to figure out what kind of investment decisions you're going to make on content. So if we start looking at the technology stack a little bit, the way Amazon approaches it, we actually break it apart in kind of 3 different tiers, if you will. Very bottom tier, frameworks and interfaces, are for very highly trained data scientists. If they want to use some of the best in open source frameworks, those tools are available. If you look at the very top of the stack, those are applications, and we'll show you very quickly what those look like. But those are all the conventional deployed on the platform, chatbots and recognitions, and we'll show you what those are. In the very middle, we have ready-to-go deployable frameworks, so that you're not a data scientist, but you need something a little more advanced than just an out-of-the-box, ready-to-go service. You can actually use a program we call SageMaker. So here's what that looks like. If I assign names now to those application services, some of you recognize Lex on the very right. That's a chatbot that powers Alexa. And recognition on the left, 2 different flavors of that. There's image recognition, video recognition. There's also transcribe services and translate for verbiage and text. Polly is a chatbot as well, speech to text. And Comprehend allows you to draw sentiment from a large amount of text. So we're going to cover these in a little more detail a little bit later on in the presentation, but want to give you an idea of what the names are of the services and platforms and kind of the open source frameworks at the very bottom level. So what's ML look like in media entertainment? From our perspective, we actually we break apart the end-to-end ecosystem, we'll call glass to glass, into 8 major workloads, those being acquisition, the whole overall media supply chain, play-out and distribution, over-the-top delivery, post-production, storage, archive, publishing, and then all the analytics and machine learning underneath. And so all sorts of use cases, and every one of these 8 major workloads are currently being enhanced by machine learning. Obviously, at the core of it is metadata enrichment, to understand your content better, being able to serve up content in a more personalized fashion, increase efficiency across the ecosystem. So the other way of looking at it, 3 different areas here: production, asset management, and publishing and distribution. So won't spend a lot of time here, but this is something, another way of grouping kind of a lot of things happening in the industry right now, from pre-processing and digital dailies to tag ingest and live video on demand, and all the way out to publishing and personalization of the content. So the next 2 slides here, a little more deep study, if you will, on kind of what the glass-to-glass ecosystems are that we're actually using machine learning in right now. It's automated metadata tagging and personalization, closed captioning, and even automated compliance. There might be some content that doesn't work very well in certain areas of the world. You want to be able to grab that content in advance. Personal and player identification. I've got some use cases I'll show you here in real time with Soccer Association and the NFL. Language translation, many languages, content recommendation, and then automated redaction as well. So a simplified architecture, if you're going to deploy some sort of a metadata enrichment or generation platform in AWS today, really simple building blocks. They're very deployable on the console. You'd input live or file-based content that would go through an S3 bucket. Object storage, we then could run a Lambda code on that. Lambda is a serverless code triggered by an event. You could then go out and enrich that data through recognition video, and then do some transcribe, some asset management, and then power it with a very strong elastic search engine like Amazon Elasticsearch. So it gives you kind of an idea what the current building blocks are of the very easy to deploy. What we'll show you here now, so we talked about a couple of services. I'm going to show you a live demo of some of these services running in the background. This is a very short piece of content, but you'll see in real time, we're actually going to be able to tag objects, scene items, even sentiment in the scene. So you see what's interesting here is that this will only play here a couple of seconds. But we've identified okay, party hat, child, flower. The algorithms, the services right in the background figured out this is a party. So that's good. If we actually let this run longer, you notice that we actually probably see through this room here out to a parking lot, might identify that there are cars in the parking lot, the makes of the cars. There's really no end to the kinds of enrichment that you can do running various algorithms and services behind the scenes. So it gives you a real-time example. Here's another example I'm going to play for you. This is essentially 3 one-minute segments of the Rose Parade. We're actually running transcribe and translate and comprehend. So actually we're translating real time from English to another language. We're actually doing some sentiment analysis and also identifying some objects in the scene. So let me play that for you, show you what that would look like. You see all this happening in real time. We broke this into 3 windows and kind of automating the process of pulling up each one of the directories below so you could see what's being done. But the point here is that easy to deploy these services within minutes. They run very quickly, just about real time, an easy way to enhance content. Here's another example using a soccer team. You notice here that we'll actually be able to identify all the players on the field, and you'll see here there'll be a window coming up that'll just below the scene, which we'll scroll down to, which will show you the number of times that their face has been recognized, their stats, probability where they're going to be moving on the field, that kind of thing. Again, just some very easy examples, easy ways, things to deploy, and ways that you can interact with not only file and live-based data, but other sorts of content. Now, here's something a little more interesting as well as we get into some of the more detailed technology. The royal wedding, which occurred in early May, we actually were approached and partnered with the Sky News, UI-Centric, and Gray Meta. And the application there was, they said, look, what we'd like to do is we'd like to serve up an application on any platform, website, mobile, that you could actually watch the royal wedding, a lot of the people arriving, and then in real time identify who those people were and get some stats and some background, because not everybody recognized who these famous people were. So I'm going to run through, this was a live demo. And you'll see that as the video takes place, you watch some of the people coming on board into the chapel. On the right-hand side, you'll actually see the identification of the famous people. They're tagged in the scene real time, and then you can actually click and get additional bio information. Again, just example of a real-world way to deploy these services, all based on machine learning, and this is being done today. So behind the scenes, this is what the royal wedding. This is what the architecture looked like. We actually took in live video, and then some of you are familiar that Amazon, we purchased a couple of years ago Elemental, and so we've actually been able to deploy a number of services, some of the 5 major services that Elemental offers, Elemental Live and storage, and integrate that into the ecosystem. We then ported out some of that information to Gray Meta, where they did some additional AI analysis on that data. We then pulled it back into our ecosystem and then deployed it back out to UI-Centric and Sky News, where everybody could experience the royal wedding and all the guests arriving. So give you an idea, these architectures are very straightforward, easy to deploy on the console, and this is really what took place with the royal wedding. So, too easy, if I look at kind of the chain of content and enrichment, it really breaks apart into content indexing and metadata generation, bringing all the content in. Then the second half is really retrieval, actioning on that metadata. This simplifies the entire end-to-end system very easily. Another thing that is very common these days are recommendation engines. You can build recommendation engines very quickly with a lot of the tools available. And if you've ever experienced Amazon Prime Video and you've actually seen X-Ray, X-Ray gives you enhanced information on a lot of the actors in the scenes and things going on with the movie, but recommendations are very, very easy to build. A couple of use cases I want to run through here. The National Football League, NFL, not unlike some of the soccer teams, are looking for a way to kind of get to next generation stats meaning that they really wanted to not only understand what was happening on the field in a particular game, but be player specific and then figure out with some sort of forecasting what might happen in that game, based on past analytics, make some determination, and then they want all this data deployed out to the media, the coaching staff, and even individuals in the stadium through their mobile devices. So they deployed on AWS, they got this running, and we actually hold an event every year called reInvent in Las Vegas, and actually the CIO got up and explained kind of their experience with making this happen. Viacom is another more interesting example of kind of deploying these machine learning tools. They actually they have a lot of data scientists, but the turnaround time was something like 5 to 15 days anytime they wanted to develop some sort of an analytical model on their content. So what they're able to do is by deploying these services very quickly on the cloud, they actually brought this down to what was a number of hours very, very quickly. So run a lot more models, a lot more analytical models on their content, regionally based, where it should be deployed, what the demographics look like, and then really get down to the business decisions they need to make. C-SPAN, you might not think of them as an entertainment company, but they had over 200,000 hours of content, and they really needed to somehow get their arms around this, identify over 99,000 faces were indexed, so now they can deploy and bring up various news stories, complement things happening on a real-time basis. Again, it's another media entertainment, content enrichment example. So the key components of the ML stack, we'll kind of run through this pretty quickly. These are some of the services available today. First one is what we call recognition image. So as you might anticipate, this is the ability to be able to take still images and then understand what is facial recognition, is it an object, is it a scene, and they actually deploy all sorts of databases like IMDb to complement that. Recognition video is an enhancement on that. Is able to actually do analysis on real-time video. And you can do this, again, for facial analysis or object recognition. You can actually even determine sentiment in a scene, which we showed a little bit earlier. Workflow enhancement overall, from ingest to deliver. Very, very easy to do across any cloud platform. And the benefit of machine learning is that now you can figure out, by the time you get to the delivery side, how you feed that information, that feedback back into the earlier parts of the media supply chain to make better decisions, better content, better positioning, better targeting. So Lex is at the core of Alexa. It's a very simple chatbot, but very, very effective. And this is deployable on any AWS platform console. You can actually train it or use very large libraries of predetermined conversational natural language. Very easy to do. Poly, natural speech, says text to speech. Right now, it's up to 24 languages. Again, depending on where you are in the world and what your application, this is very, very strong speech-to-text component. Transcribe is built as an ASR service, automatic speech recognition, and then deploys it right to text, so that you can translate that text in real time. And translate, up to, I think we're up to 12 languages for translate. Very soon, by the end of the year, this should be quite a bit higher. But the ability to take different types of languages around the world and translate directly to that language. And then comprehend, probably one of the more interesting ones is that taking large amounts of text and information. In this case, you could take a huge, thousands of news articles, and then, for example, do a very quick operation to figure out, of the news articles, which one's related to world stories, health, other types of things going on around the world, sort them out very quickly, and do it in a way that that's cost effective. So the key is speed. It's has to be certainly reasonable in cost. In this case, it's low cost, but be able to do it in a very fast way that you can actually affect your business. So the second level of the ML stack is what we call SageMaker, and SageMaker goes one level deeper than these automatically deployed services. These are actually predefined, pre-built notebooks. All of this will run very easily on open source frameworks. But with SageMaker, you're actually able to take pre-built notebooks of machine learning code models and actually implement, you can actually adjust and implement millions of parameters, and then SageMaker will actually go through and train itself, learn on its own. So it's a way of really speeding up the process for custom applications. Obviously, so build, train, and deploy machine learning models at scale, very, very easy. Obviously for ad targeting, for people detection, whatever application you might have, and kind of a simplified architecture, either the build cycle, these are the pre-built notebooks, as I said, we're seeing a lot of MXNet and TensorFlow in terms of open source frameworks. We actually have a very large number of TensorFlow stored on AWS as well as MXNet. You can then train those models and then deploy them very, very quickly. So this is what we're calling SageMaker. And in this presentation, we actually have some new technology, new camera technology that we'll go through at some point in the future. But those models will be deployed on, for example, field cameras, and you can run these types of SageMaker, Lambda serverless code on these cameras to identify objects in the field and then drive that information back into the cloud for identification. So the last level of the stack are all the open source frameworks. Many of these are familiar to you, I'm sure. Apache MXNet, as I said, and TensorFlow are two of the ones we see quite a bit. We're also doing a lot of work around Gluon. And it's probably worth mentioning that as we kind of move through a variety of our services, we've actually moved to a new P3 instance of compute power, which now is capable of 1 petaflop of compute, which is quite large. So we've gone from P2 down to P3, and speed and versatility are obviously very, very core to achieving these models. None of this would really make any sense unless there was security around it. So we talk about, for us, security is job one. Hundreds of security certifications, that are ISO compliant. But the services that we offer out of the box, AWS Shield, Guard Duty, and obviously these things all affect kind of the whole machine learning model. So partners currently in play in a lot of machine learning, whether you're working with Amazon, AWS, or you're working with other there are some great partners in the field. We've identified a number of them. We actually have hundreds of partners, but these are some of the ones that kind of initially come to mind around machine learning workloads. And as I said, you see Gray Meta we used on the royal wedding. So kind of in summary, we kind of covered a lot of ground here very quickly, but I think that you'll probably be able to see that machine learning is really helping the evolution of media pipelines. It's driving innovation, creating kind of value and insights you need from that content, that data. It's giving you kind of ready-built platforms and services. And in the end, it's really providing a flexible, scalable, agile and very experience-based way to get your arms around machine learning very, very quickly. So to that end, thank you very much.